Welcome to our deep dive into the world of AI in education. We've got a whole stack of research papers, articles from educators, and even some student perspectives to unpack.
Wow, that sounds like quite the reading list.
Yeah, it's a lot, but hey, that's why we do these deep dives, right? To get to the heart of what's really going on. It feels like everyone's talking about AI in education these days.
It's true. It's really everywhere.
But, we're going to cut through all the noise and get to what really matters.
That sounds like a plan.
So what I'm really curious about is, are we just talking about robots grading papers, or is there something bigger happening here?
I think it's definitely bigger than just automation. There's this real shift from just automating tasks to rethinking the whole learning and teaching experience.
Okay, so less about robots and more about like reshaping the whole experience.
Exactly. One of the areas I'm most excited about is personalized learning.
Oh yeah, I've heard that term thrown around a lot.
Well, we're starting to see AI algorithms that can actually analyze a student's learning patterns and then tailor the content and feedback to their specific needs.
So like if a student's struggling with fractions, the AI can step in with extra practice or even adjust how the concepts are presented.
Exactly. It's like having a tutor who knows exactly how you learn best.
Wow, that would be amazing. There's a study from Stanford we read that found students using an AI-powered math program improved their scores by like 60% compared to those using traditional methods.
60%. That's incredible.
I know, right? And on top of that, I bet teachers are pretty excited about AI taking over some of those time-consuming tasks.
Oh, absolutely. There's this paper from the EdTech Institute that estimates teachers spend almost a third of their time on things that could be automated, like grading, scheduling, even some parts of lesson planning.
So much time. Imagine if teachers could redirect that time to work one-on-one with students or develop more creative lessons.
It could be revolutionary.
I think that human connection is so crucial, especially in education. But, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Not everyone has equal access to this technology.
You're absolutely right. That's a huge challenge. The
Mhm.
digital divide is real, and if we're not careful, AI could actually worsen existing inequality.
Exactly. We have to be mindful of that.
Some really smart people are working on this, though. For example, there's a lot of research going into developing offline AI tools that could work even without reliable internet access.
Oh, that's interesting. And are there any initiatives to provide affordable devices or digital literacy training, especially in underserved communities?
Absolutely. There's a big push for that.
Mm.
It's becoming clear that it's not just about the technology itself, but making sure everyone has the skills and resources to use it effectively.
Speaking of skills, one term that keeps popping up in all these articles is digital literacy. What exactly does that mean in the context of AI?
That's a good question.
Mm.
It's kind of like traditional literacy skills writing, but applied to this digital world.
So it's more than just knowing how to use a computer.
Yeah, it's about being able to navigate online information, critically evaluate sources, understand how algorithms work, and recognize biases.
It's like you're saying we're raising a generation of digital natives, and they need a whole new set of skills to thrive in this environment.
Exactly. And that brings up another big question. Are we preparing teachers for this massive shift in education?
It's a valid question, right? I mean, AI is changing everything so fast. Are teacher training programs keeping up?
That's the concern. One study found that less than 20% of teachers feel adequately prepared to integrate AI into their classrooms.
Wow, it's a pretty low number.
It is, and it highlights the need for professional development programs that focus not just on the technical skills, but also on the bigger picture, like how AI can be used to personalize learning and create more engaging lessons.
So it's not just about knowing how to use the software. It's about understanding how to use it effectively in a teaching context.
Exactly. And that's not always easy. It requires a shift in mindset. Seeing AI as a partner in the classroom rather than a replacement for the teacher.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about the challenges for teachers, but what about the students themselves? How are they reacting to AI entering their classrooms?
Well, there's definitely a mix of excitement and apprehension. I mean, some students are worried that AI will eventually replace teachers altogether.
I can see why they'd be concerned about that.
But there's also a real sense of opportunity.
Mhm.
Students are fascinated by the possibilities of personalized learning, interactive simulations, and using AI to learn more effectively.
It sounds like a bit of a double-edged sword. The potential to enhance learning is huge, but there are also valid anxieties about the changes AI brings.
Exactly. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, is helping students navigate the potential pitfalls of AI.
Oh, like becoming overly reliant on these tools.
Exactly. We're already seeing some students using AI to cheat on essays or even generate entire research papers without doing any of the work themselves.
That's a bit concerning.
It is. That's why we need to emphasize critical thinking skills, media literacy, and the importance of original thought, even in an AI-driven world.
So it's about using AI as a tool to enhance learning, not a shortcut to bypass it altogether.
Right. And that leads to another crucial quote. How can we ensure that AI is used ethically and responsibly in education, benefiting both teachers and students?
That's a great question, and one we're going to dive into right after a quick...
It's a tough question, for sure. There's so many factors to consider.
So let's try to break it down. Where do we even start?
I think a good place to begin is with guidelines and regulations.
So like a rule book for AI in education.
Exactly. We need clear rules about data privacy, algorithmic bias, and transparency.
Data privacy, that's a big one. We're talking about collecting a ton of information on students, their learning styles, strengths, weaknesses. It can feel a bit like a black box.
It can. And that's why we need those safeguards in place to make sure this data is handled ethically and used only for educational purposes.
Right. We don't want algorithms making decisions about a student's future without anyone understanding how those decisions were made.
Absolutely. Transparency is key. Parents, teachers, and students themselves should all understand how AI is being used and what data is being collected.
So it's not just about protecting privacy. It's also about building trust.
Exactly. If we want people to embrace AI in education, they need to feel confident that it's being used responsibly.
Okay, so we've got guidelines and transparency. But what about the practical side of things? How do we actually equip teachers with the skills they need to use AI effectively?
Well, one idea that's gaining traction is to embed AI training into teacher education programs.
So like starting right at the beginning.
Exactly. New teachers would enter the profession already familiar with the basics of AI and how it can be applied in the classroom.
It's like giving them the tools they need from day one.
Right. But we can't forget about the teachers who are already out there. Many of them are feeling overwhelmed by this new technology.
Understandably so. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is. So we need to offer ongoing professional development opportunities that cater to different levels of comfort with technology.
So like a mix of introductory workshops and more advanced training.
Exactly. And these programs should go beyond just the technical how-tos. We need to help teachers understand the pedagogical implications of AI.
Right. It's not just about knowing how to use the software. It's about knowing how to use it to actually improve learning.
Exactly. And that requires a real shift in mindset, moving away from seeing AI as a threat and towards seeing it as a partner in the classroom.
It's about empowering teachers, not replacing them.
Exactly. And that same shift in mindset is important for students as well. We need to help them develop a healthy understanding of AI.
So they don't just see it as a magic box that spits out answers.
Right. We need to teach them to question the output of AI, evaluate its accuracy, and understand the reasoning behind its recommendations.
So even though AI can provide information, it's still up to the student to process it, analyze it, and form their own conclusions.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking skills become even more important in this AI-driven world.
Makes sense. We need to make sure students don't become overly reliant on these tools.
Absolutely. And that's where digital literacy comes in.
Yes. We talked about this earlier in the context of teachers, but it's just as crucial for students, right?
Absolutely. It's about equipping them with the tools to navigate the digital world safely, responsibly, and critically.
So understanding algorithms, recognizing bias, evaluating sources, all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Digital literacy is becoming a fundamental life skill just as important as reading and writing.
And it's only going to become more important as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
Right. Which brings up another important point, the role of parents in all of this.
Oh, that's a good one. Parents often feel like they're the last to know what's going on in their kids' schools.
It's true. But parents play a vital role in shaping their children's understanding of AI.
So it's important for them to stay informed.
Absolutely. Parents need to understand how AI is being used in their children's schools and be able to talk to their kids about the potential benefits and challenges.
It sounds like this really is a team effort. Schools, teachers, parents, students all working together.
It's exactly. Collaboration is key if we want to ensure that AI is used to enhance education, not undermine it.
This has been such a fascinating discussion. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this topic.
There's definitely a lot more to explore, but I think we've covered some of the most important issues.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with?
It's not just about the tech itself, is it?
Right. It's about the people involved.
And making sure AI is used to help them.
Not hinder them. Exactly. We need to be really thoughtful about how we integrate this technology into education.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another key point. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of AI in education, but what are some concrete examples of how it's already being used to improve learning?
Yeah, I think some listeners might be wondering how this is actually playing out in schools.
Well, one area where we're seeing a lot of innovation is in personalized learning. AI algorithms can analyze a student's learning patterns and then tailor content pacing and feedback to their specific needs.
So it's like having a personal tutor for every student.
In a way, yes. But AI can also create more engaging learning experiences. For example, there are platforms that use virtual reality and gamification to make learning more fun and immersive.
That sounds amazing, especially for younger students who might struggle to stay engaged with traditional teaching methods.
Exactly. It can make a huge difference.
Heh.
But of course, there are concerns about AI making learning too easy or preventing students from developing critical thinking skills.
Right. Some people worry that students will just become passive consumers of information.
That's a valid concern. And it's why we need to emphasize critical thinking and digital literacy even more in an AI-driven world.
So even if AI can provide the information, students still need to be able to evaluate it, analyze it, and form their own conclusions.
Exactly. AI should be a tool that helps students think, not a replacement for thinking.
And that's where the role of the teacher becomes even more crucial. Even with AI handling some of the routine tasks, teachers are still essential for guiding discussions, fostering critical thinking, and providing individual support.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between technology and human interaction.
And recognizing that AI can complement the teacher's role, but not replace it.
Exactly. And as we've discussed throughout this deep dive, it's crucial that teachers receive the training and support they need to integrate AI effectively into their classrooms.
And it's important to remember that this conversation isn't just happening in schools. Policymakers, researchers, ethicists, they're all grappling with the implications of AI in education.
It's a complex issue with far-reaching consequences. And it's a conversation that needs to involve everyone, educators, parents, students, the wider community.
Because ultimately, it's about shaping the future of education in a way that benefits everyone.
AI has the potential to transform learning for the better, but it's up to us to ensure that it's used responsibly and equitably.
That's a great point, and a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into AI and education. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking.
It's been a pleasure.
As always, we encourage you to continue exploring this topic and to engage in the ongoing conversations about the role of AI in shaping the future of learning. Thanks for listening.